Up next on Eco Company.
We're hitting the road, but not just in any car.
So this car has no engine.
Right. This does not burn any fuel. It's all electric motors, very efficient.
It's powered by a fuel cell, and it's one clean green machine on 4 wheels.
Plus, bringing star power to Earth.
It's carbon-free, produces no carbon in the atmosphere, which of course we worry about from an environmental point of view.
What's happening in one national lab could just change the future.
And greening our gas, literally, how algae is being turned into fuel. We head into the lab.
Then wind turbines. They give us power. And we discovered they're a lot more complicated than they look. Eco Company
starts now. Hey gang, this week Eco Company is all about clean, green energy. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Brendan.
And I'm Jessica. First up, we go beyond the hybrid to the fuel cell.
Adam's checking out the hottest new tech to hit the road.
Check out my sweet new ride. This is a hydrogen fuel cell car. So what's so cool about that? We're gonna go find out.
It's a car of the future, only here, that future is now. This is the California Fuel Cell Partnership, a place that spent the past 10 years working to get these babies to the market.
The Electron.
Catherine Dunwoody is the executive director.
This is a fully electric vehicle. There's no combustion happening in this car, so there's no emissions.
It's simple. These cars don't use fossil fuels, so they don't pollute. And here's the proof. That's water you see coming out of the tailpipe.
Fuel cell vehicles are one way that we can address a lot of different issues that face our world today. They can reduce our dependency on oil, they can improve our local air quality so we can all breathe easier, and they can help us address global climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
So, what is hydrogen? It's the simplest gas known to man.
Hydrogen is very safe. In fact, we use a lot of hydrogen today. Most of the hydrogen that we use in our country is used to make gasoline.
In this case, hydrogen is used to carry electricity, and it doesn't need much help to do it.
A fuel cell is an electrochemical device that actually takes hydrogen from a fuel tank on board the vehicle, combines it with oxygen from the air, and produces electricity as you drive the car. This here is the fuel cell stack. This is where the electricity is generated. And the stack generates electricity from hydrogen, which is stored here in this hydrogen tank that's located behind the rear seats.
So this car has no engine.
Right. This does not burn any fuel. What happens is the electricity that's generated from the fuel cell stack travels up to kind of the brains of the system, which tells the electricity where to go. So most of the electricity here is going to go to the electric motors to drive the car. And so there is no engine. It's all electric drive, electric motors, very efficient. If there's any extra electricity, it can go back to the battery to get stored for that time when you need that burst of energy to get on the freeway or to pass somebody.
Fuel cells don't store energy like batteries do. They just create the electricity.
So you don't have to plug in a fuel cell to recharge it. You simply refuel with hydrogen. As long as there's hydrogen in the tank, the fuel cell will create the electricity.
Fuel cell vehicles are 2 to 3 times more efficient than your average car. Okay, now for the not so hard part. How to fill her up.
So you just open up the fueling area, and it looks a little different than the connector you see on a gas car. This is actually a totally sealed connection, so there won't be any vapors released, there's no smell, there's no drips with this fuel. What we do is we just take the nozzle off the station, and you can see this too looks a little different. It's going to form a tight seal so the hydrogen can go directly into the tank. Just lock this thing on, and the fueling begins.
Whoa.
Now the big question. Why we aren't seeing more of these on the roads? For one, fuel cells still cost a lot to produce, and you have to produce a lot of them to fuel big fleets of cars. They want to make storage more lightweight too. Automakers expect to see a lot more of these on the roads by 2015.
Well, I think what's most interesting for young people is to see the future of driving, and that these are the cars that perhaps not right when you get your driver's license, but down the road as young adults and as you start building your families and your careers, you will be driving or can be driving hydrogen fuel cell vehicles.
So it's time for me to do some zero emissions driving. I'm Adam with Eco Company, and I'll catch you later.
Hybrids, fuel cells, all great. But it'll be a while before everyone can get behind the wheel of one of those.
It's a good thing there are biofuels to turn to, and Jordan's heading into one lab to see what they're working on.
You'll never guess what's in all these barrels around me. It's the largest supply of oil made from algae in the whole world. Let's go in the lab and see how it's made. Some call it pond scum, others simply algae. But this green stuff is a whole lot more than you think. Just ask Harrison Dillon.
I love algae, I love biology. It's fascinated me since I was a kid.
Dillon is the co-founder of Solazyme, a company that's turning algae into cleaner, greener energy.
We turn algae into oil.
And they're not just turning it into oil, they're turning it into fuel.
You think of oil as this non-renewable thing that comes out of the ground, and all that oil that comes out of the ground is from fossilized algae. So what we do is we use biotechnology to get the algae to make oil in real time. So it takes only a few days instead of millions of years.
It's a recipe where every ingredient counts. So I've got my lab coat on, and I'm ready to see where all that magic happens. First comes picking the right algae for the job.
These are a lot of different types of algae, so you can see that some are yellow, some are green, even some algae is bright orange. So really algae are a very, very diverse set of organisms. To make oil really cheaply, to make renewable fuel, you really need to pick the right strain.
They grow their algae in the dark and give the microbes a strict diet.
So what we do is we take plant material like sugar cane or sawdust or wood chips, any type of plant material, and we feed it to strains of algae that we've developed. And the algae convert all that plant material into crude oil. These are the stalks that are left over from processing sugar cane. So if you look in there, that's just the leaves and the stems and the roots from sugarcane plants, and we feed it to our algae, and the algae convert it into crude oil.
It's happening right here in this lab.
We are, as we speak, converting biomass into crude oil. That's what this device does. And once we have the crude oil, it looks like this. It's crude oil. And we can take this crude oil and we can turn it into biodiesel. That's this fuel right here. This can fuel any diesel vehicle. We can also turn it into renewable diesel. That's this fuel here. This is fuel that's chemically the same as what comes out of the pump at the gas station. This has about 30% less particulates and about 20% less total hydrocarbons than the regular diesel fuel that comes out of the pump at the gas station. Putting this stuff into your car is cleaner, more fuel efficient, and much, much more carbon friendly than the regular stuff that you buy every day at the gas station. So one of the neat things about this technology is we've designed it to be compatible with what's already out there. So you can use any diesel vehicle and you can go to any gas station. There's nothing special about the way this fuel is used.
Think that's pretty cool? That's not all they're doing.
Go ahead, dip it in there, take a taste.
Oh, wow.
Not bad, huh?
It's actually really good. From cooking oil to fuel for cars, is there anything algae can't do?
It can't do your homework for you.
But Dillon is issuing a challenge.
Our nation needs our young people to get excited about science and to go into science. Every generation has a chance to change the world in some way, and it looks like energy is going to be what our current teenagers are going to be faced with when they become adults.
It's a race to clean up the planet for us all.
What does NIF stand for?
The National Ignition Facility. And next up, we're heading inside where scientists are using the world's largest laser to create energy on Earth.
And later, getting our power from the wind. There's a lot more to these spinning machines than meets the eye.
These days, the race is on to find new ways to power our lives.
And one of them is an attempt to bring star power down to Earth.
I paid a visit to a national lab that hopes to make history. The universe. It's a place that's been around a long time, and it's powered by a big star we like to call the Sun. It's our planet's one renewable, unlimited source of energy. Just imagine if we could figure out how to harness its power right here on Earth. That's what they're trying to do here at the Lawrence Livermore National Lab in Livermore, California.
So this is where the laser beam comes into this room.
Jeff Weisoff is a former shuttle astronaut who's hoping to bring what he's seen up there down here.
NIF, which stands for the National Ignition Facility, is the world's largest laser. And what we're going to do is use its very powerful laser beams to reproduce the same type of energy process that happens on the sun and in the stars, and that's called fusion.
He's talking about nuclear fusion. It's different from fission that runs power plants. Fission breaks atoms apart, releasing energy and big problems like radioactive waste. Fusion brings smaller atoms together in a more controlled way, using limitless clean energy sources.
It's carbon-free, produces no carbon in the atmosphere, which of course we worry about from an environmental point of view, and it doesn't produce the long-lived radioactive waste that you find with the fission process. So it's a very, very exciting, game-changing type of technology.
So that brings us back to the laser. They plan to use it to get enough pressure and heat to get this whole thing to work. The laser is actually made up of 192 smaller ones. Once Mission Control fires them, they're sent traveling through 2 bays, full of laser tubing. Mirrors inside bounce the beam back and forth, not just once, but several times. This allows special laser glass and optics inside the tubes to amplify them so they get more powerful. Then it's go time, and they're sent towards the big prize. I'm guessing this is the center of it all. Can you tell us what it is?
That's right. This is the target chamber for the National Ignition Facility, where we're trying to reproduce the power of the stars here on Earth. And what you see above you are the beam tubes that bring the giant lasers that we have into the target chamber. And what we're going to do is focus them in on a fuel assembly to try to recreate the conditions on the sun to get energy out. And the way it works is the laser beams come inside this little gold can that you see. We call it a holerum. It's like a cylinder with holes in each end. The laser beams hit the inside of the can and create X-rays. Those X-rays bathe a little fuel pellet in there, and the fuel pellet has a shell, and inside the shell is the fuel, which is isotopes of hydrogen, just like on the sun. And what happens is those X-rays blow the shell off, and just like a rocket where the exhaust pushes a rocket forward, when that shell blows off, it pushes the fuel by the opposite and equal reaction towards itself, and it accelerates it till it reaches about 1,000,000 miles per hour, quickly heats up to 100 million degrees, like the interior of stars, and the nuclei fuse together to form helium nuclei and release energy. And it's the same kind of energy that comes from the stars.
When they reach ignition, it will be the first controlled fusion reaction on Earth. If they can ignite fusion continuously and keep those short bursts of laser beams aimed on the hydrogen target, it could keep a power plant running, like you see in this simulation. Now that's what we call helping to clean up the planet. And this is really clean energy.
This is truly clean energy. There is no carbon put into the atmosphere, so we don't have the problems that we have with fossil fuels.
If they can pull this all off, it will change energy on the planet as we know it.
Okay, I'll be back.
We all know that cars are a big pollution problem, but here's something you might not know. Every moment you spend idling your car's engine wastes gas. Idling for more than 10 seconds wastes more gas than is needed to restart the car.
Americans idle away 2.9 billion gallons of gas a year. Add in the adverse effect on the environment, and that's a big problem. So whether you're waiting for a friend, thanks,
Or in a car wash, or in a fast food drive-thru, or wherever cars line up, be sure to turn your car off until you need to move.
or better yet, park your car and walk inside. Whatever you do, be eco-wise and be a part of the solution.
We've talked about fuel cells, biofuels, and star power, but next up,
Wind turbines, and they've come a long way from windmills.
we head to the California Wind Energy Collaborative to see just how much.
What's tall, spins round and round, and gives us energy?
Wind turbines, and they're big power producers these days, and they're not as simple as they look. Hey guys, we're at the University of California, Davis, and today we're meeting with grad students and researchers to see the future of wind power. And it's some high-tech stuff. You've seen them dotting hillsides, towering over farmland, and even crowning the top of buildings. They're wind turbines, and they can produce 20% of the electricity used in the US by the year 2030.
You produce that energy over a 20-year period without producing any emissions.
Turbines are a modern version of the windmill.
A windmill is used to convert wind power into mechanical power, and a wind turbine is really conversion of wind power into electrical power.
They do it by using lift, not drag, to rotate a shaft that spins a generator, which produces electricity. It's then sent to a power grid. But they're not cheap. That brings us here, to the University of Davis, California, home to the California Wind Energy Collaborative.
So overall the turbine I think is doing quite well given all the weather conditions we have had.
This is where Professor Kees van Dam and his team of engineers are working on the next generation of turbines.
We're simply trying to understand how wind turbines work, how to improve existing designs, and how to make future designs better and more efficient.
The team is focused on perfecting the blades that make up the rotor.
That is our focus, making that rotor as efficient as possible, also as cost effective as possible.
They do some testing on this residential-sized turbine on the roof.
So how much power does one of these residential turbines give out?
When the winds get to about 25 to 30 miles per hour, this turbine will put out 1 kilowatt, so 1,000 watts.
But it's the utility-sized turbine, one that can produce 3 kilowatts, that gets most of their attention. In the computer lab, Raymond Chow is using state-of-the-art aeronautics to design new blades.
So this is a computer model that I generated of a future wind turbine design, and we're using this to look at how current design methodologies sort of come up with this shape, understand what's wrong with it, and how to improve it for future rotors.
Myra Blaylock is coming up with her own modification.
The air comes up and over. And what I've done here, this is my research back here, is I've added a jet of air pushing out from the trailing edge of the airflow, and it changes how the air flows over the blade. So this is state-of-the-art. It's being done experimentally right now, but it hasn't actually been applied to wind turbines in the field yet.
When it comes to testing, they hit here.
So, Case, what's this long tube in front of us?
It's a wind tunnel, and what we're looking at here is really the test section, the main focus of the wind tunnel. So here we get the high wind speeds, and then we measure blade models, or in this case, blade sections.
So you're able to test the stuff that you're making at the moment?
Yeah, so this is 50 miles per hour, and we go back to when you look at the model, you see the flow is nicely attached, the tufts are doing the right thing, indicating the flow is doing well. Let's now increase the angle of attack, and you see it will start to produce now more and more lift, but you see these tufts now start to show some action. We're starting to get some flow separation on this model, and if we increase the angle of attack even further, you see the flow going, as you say, completely crazy over the model, and this is a condition really that you want to prevent from occurring on a wind turbine. We'll get wind turbine blades that are lighter, and they tend to become less costly, and that drives the cost of the turbine down, and as a result, the cost of energy. So I think that's what we're really after.
It's this kind of research that Van Dam and his team believes will change the future of wind energy, from rooftops and hillsides across the globe.
What can be better than, as an engineer, as a researcher, to work on things that are very challenging, and then secondly, they're good for the country, they're good for Mother Earth, and I think that's one of the most rewarding areas you can work in.
Time to open up our Ecolingo dictionary. What is renewable energy?
That's energy that can be taken from sources that'll be replenished in a short amount of time.
Here are some of the most common renewable energy sources. Biomass, organic materials that create biofuels.
Water used to create hydropower.
Geothermal heat from the earth.
Wind power, and of course, solar power generated from the sun.
Renewable energy. Know the Ecolingo and be part of the solution.
Well, that's it for us this week.
Don't forget to check out our website at eco-company.tv and look for us on Facebook.
We'll see you next week on Eco Company.